Okay, hello everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us for our webinar, Advice from Alumni, England edition. I am Eloise Casey and I'm the Intern and Student Services Coordinator for ISA London. Today I'm joined by some of our amazing alumni to share more about what you should know before studying abroad in England. Also with us today from ISA is Hannah Hamilton, our Senior Programme Manager for England and Scotland. She's monitoring the chat and will be dropping helpful links along the way, as well as answering any questions, so feel free to put them in the chat. Hannah is our expert on getting everything organised, and after you apply, you will be working directly with her to ensure everything is smooth sailing. Before we hear from our alumni, let's take a look at all that England has to offer. Why we love England. So firstly, culture. English culture can be described as a mix between old and new. Being a diverse international hub, there's not a single specific culture in England, and you can experience it all. Influenced by its royal history, the British are, in my opinion, polite and courteous, so making friends with locals is easy, especially once you get the hang of the humour. City life. While studying abroad with ISA, you could live in one of the world's most famous cities, London. Whether you're immersing yourself in England's history by exploring museums or watching the beautiful game that we call football in some of the most iconic stadiums in the world, you'll be left wanting more. If you're looking for a slower pace but are eager to explore England's roots, check out Oxford and Reading. Enriched in culture, Oxford and Reading will give you an inside look on the origins of England's poets and artists, as well as an experience in English countryside with the option of being in London within an hour. Transit. You can't talk about England without talking about how easy it is to travel around the country and as well in Europe. The train system in England is straightforward, which makes travelling around the country smooth sailing. The best part, English is the native language, so don't worry about having to navigate language exchanges whilst exploring England, but the accents definitely do differ. If you're looking to explore outside of England, there are 3 international airports within an hour's train ride of the city centre. This time last year, I was in Norway and it's the best place I've ever been, and I'll go back real soon. The food. Whether you're craving fish and chips or are eager to have tea and crumpets, English cuisine covers it all. If you're eager to try authentic foods from other parts of the world, take advantage of having world-class international cuisine at your fingertips. Influenced by various corners of the world, England offers a foodie's dream with so many different types of cuisine to try. It's truly authentic, especially Indian and Middle Eastern food. I had a Lebanese-inspired brunch on Sunday with my friend who was visiting from Dublin, and I'm still thinking about it. And it's Tuesday night here and it's still on the mind. Okay, so programme options. Let's talk about the options. With 3 cities and 8 host universities to choose from, there's something for everyone, including semester, summer, and internship opportunities. London, Reading, and Oxford. Each destination has a personality of its own. So with London, you can visit Big Ben and Buckingham Palace and all the iconic sites whilst living in the largest metropolis of the UK. It's a melting pot for people around the world and offer its inhabitants a front row seat to all things pop culture, political and cosmopolitan. In addition to our 5 host universities here, we also offer internships throughout the year. With Reading, you could take advantage of one of the numerous music, art and cultural festivals or explore the English countryside that surrounds this gorgeous city. It also holds one of the most popular music festivals each summer. This year it is headlined by Billie Eilish and The Killers, but I could not buy tickets in time. Oxford has a rich history and an academic prestige, and it's evident in every inch of the city. Whether you're staying on campus or walking through the many colleges of the University of Oxford, visiting numerous Harry Potter filming locations, or punting along the Cherwell, which looks a lot more difficult than it is. An activity that inspired Lewis Carroll to write Alice in Wonderland, your summer will be filled with discovery. And with so many partner universities here, no matter what you're looking to study, we have a number of options to meet your course needs. During your program, you'll live in your host university's dorms, and depending on the program you choose, you could be located right in the heart of a park-like campus or in a bustling urban area with daily commutes to and from class. For example, Westminster University has a campus just off of Oxford Street, which is London's Fifth Avenue, or Queen Mary University is right on Regent's Canal, so you'll see a lot of ducks and narrowboats, while being only 6 stops away from the famous West End. Okay, my favourite slide is next. These are some great photos of the London resident team and I. We all have slightly different responsibilities, but all team up to welcome students at the beginning and the end of the semesters, as well as the activities that we run during term time. For example, last weekend, Jo and Marina led a group to Windsor Castle to see where the late Queen and present King live. Next weekend, a group of our current semester students and I are heading to Stonehenge and Bath to live our best lives. I'm obviously biased, but our England team is incredibly knowledgeable and experienced, which greatly advantages future and current students. We as resident staff members are ready to support you from the moment you get off the plane until you're heading back home. We're always happy to lend an ear or share our favourite local coffee spots. I had a cappuccino overlooking St Paul's Cathedral the other day, and I was romanticising my life. And I'll recommend it to anyone that listens, for real. Okay, the funding facts. Are you an out-of-state student? Going abroad may be cheaper for your home rates, especially when you weigh up the different costs of living between the US and the UK. Do you already use financial aid? Check with your financial aid office to see if you could apply it to your program abroad. Do you currently use scholarships? You may be able to take your scholarships with you. And have you looked at your budget? Considering getting a job and saving beforehand, or asking family for funds instead of gifts this holiday season? The next steps. So what is next, you may ask? If you haven't already applied, I strongly encourage you to contact Hannah with additional questions. Our team can help you narrow down the options for the programs that fit your needs. Hannah is dropping her email in the chat soon, and if you would like to reach out to her for more information, you can definitely do that. Once you've chosen your program, you'll need to apply with us as well as your home university. Be sure to stay in touch with your study abroad office along the way, as they can really help to get through the process and how it relates to your university. Once you apply, our program managers will be there to answer any questions that you have along the way. Okay, advice from alumni. If you're just starting out or already enrolled for your program, we think it's always helpful to talk to someone that's been there and done it. We're happy to connect you with one of today's panelists or someone else from our alumni network to answer your questions. Hannah is dropping a link in the chat to a form that you can fill out to be connected directly with one of our alumni. We're also happy to connect you with someone that shares a similar identity to you if you want to ask them about their personal experience and advice. It's very helpful. Okay, so we're going to meet our alumni who all have first-hand experience with studying abroad in England. If you've been holding on to a question, now is the time to toss it in the chat. And firstly, we're going to do some quick introductions. So if you share your name, your home university, and where and when you studied abroad, and we can all start with Kate.
Hello, my name's Kate. I'm a junior at Texas A&M, and I studied abroad in Oxford at Oriel College this past summer in June for 2 weeks.
Lovely. The hottest summer we've ever had.
Yes.
Trevor, you next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Trevor. I'm also a junior at the University of Central Missouri, and I studied abroad at the University of Roehampton in last summer of 2022.
Lovely. Roehampton is so nice. And Ryan?
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm a junior at Chapman University in Orange County, California. And I studied abroad fall of 2022, the whole semester in University of Roehampton in London.
Lovely. Thanks so much for that, everyone. Okay, so first, real question, bit of an easy one. Why did you choose your particular city and program to be in England? Ryan?
So I picked London for a few reasons. One of the main ones is that it's an English speaking country. And that was my first time like living by myself out of country. And I just wanted to be as comfortable as possible. And I was right about that. It was so nice being able to travel the city and be able to read all the signs and talk to people. Like I met so many people and it was really helpful that there's that common language. And I also was an English major, and London has like a lot of like rich literary history, which was really fun to explore. So I do recommend like looking for a program that kind of matches your interests as well. And yeah, and also just the city was like beautiful. Like the city is so big and there's so much to do. And that was another reason why I wanted to go there.
That is a great answer. I love that. Trevor, how did you choose the University of Roehampton? What drew you to this?
So for me, choosing a place to study abroad encompassed a lot of different elements. I wanted to make sure that I was going to get the historical experience as well as the, different culture and the different academic experience. And so I chose specifically the University of Roehampton because I know, like Ryan said, they have a really good literary program and a lot of literary history to learn about in London. And so I knew about the academic environment going in, which made me excited to get started with my program. I was in a course called Hidden London, where we really got to dive deep into the literary elements of historical London and how they developed, which was really, really interesting. And then also, like you mentioned, there's not really a language barrier there. So it's a great place to study, to get the study abroad experience without having to really adapt to any major changes. And then lastly, I knew that I wanted to visit historical landmarks in areas like London. And so I was glad that while I was there, I got to visit some historical galleries, the British Museum, and really get the opportunity to immerse myself in the unique British landscape.
Sounds like you used your time well. Kate, what drew you to Oxford and our Oriel College program specifically?
Yeah, so I signed up really last minute, but I got an email from an organization I'm in, and it was for a faith and reason class, which is just like an interest of mine. It really doesn't go with my major, but I thought it just sounded really interesting. And I knew I wanted to do a study abroad at some point in college. And I kind of knew I wanted to do England, same to what Ryan said about like English speaking. It just eliminates another big change that you're going to adjust to. So yeah, all the cards just kind of aligned on that one, but it was super fun.
That's very good to hear. And after you had even decided where to go, obviously studying abroad can be quite daunting. What was your biggest concern leading up to the program, Kate?
I would say my biggest concern was packing like all the right clothes and making sure I had going from summer in Texas to summer in England. I didn't know what that would be like. So I was really stressed about the weather and like activity wise, what kind of clothes I would need to pack and all that.
I agree with you. I'm always stressed about the weather and I live here all the time. Trevor, what about you?
So I'll say that going abroad is obviously a very rewarding experience, but there are some barriers that you have to overcome to be able to fully enjoy that experience. For England specifically, I would say the hardest part for me would have not having any connections in the country. So I was traveling solo. It was my first time out of the country, and I had no idea of what I should expect. But my advice to you all who are getting ready or who are interested in going is to just kind of remember the reason why you were there, and everything else will fall into place. You'll be surprised at how friendly and eager your study abroad peers will be to meet you. And these are the types of friendships that you will cherish forever. I mean, literally, you will remember these people forever. And so another thing I think it's important to be aware of the 4 stages of homesickness and prepare yourself for those symptoms that you may experience, as well as how to combat those feelings while you're abroad, because those are some things you can take to really help reduce those feelings of anxiety that you may have while you're abroad, or any feelings of homesickness. So make sure you're familiar with those and know how to combat those feelings if you come across those.
Yes, definitely. Homesickness can definitely be a thing, whether you're coming to London for 2 weeks or you're coming, for a whole year. I definitely empathize with that. And going on from what you were saying, it can be a lot to go abroad without knowing anyone on your program, and you're saying that everyone is sort of in the same boat is very important. Ryan, do you have any advice for students on the fence about going abroad as well?
Yeah, well, okay, so I was really nervous before I went because again, I was going for an entire semester. So, and I knew no one. So I was like definitely most worried about making friends. Because again, I was just like, what if I hate everyone? What if I like don't meet any people? Which was totally wrong. Like I went and immediately, like ISA, the program I was on, they like pick you up from the airport. So I met everyone there at the airport. And then they had a bunch of events like the first week. And even like continuing on the weekends, we did a bunch of excursions and stuff. And it was honestly not hard at all to make friends, which was really comforting. So I recommend try not to worry too much about the friends part. I feel like that's something that is like pretty huge that a lot of people are worried about in terms of the people you're meeting. But the people on the program are all people who are interested in, again, meeting new people, expanding their horizons, adventuring. So like everyone on the program are the type that are going to be like pretty nice and outgoing. So yeah, I would say go for it and don't worry too much about the people because they'll be there.
Yes, I love that you bring up the excursions as well. Honestly, it's such a like perk of my job that I get to go to all these places and with students who are like fascinated by everything as well. So yeah, on the topic of making friends, it's obviously a concern that we hear from students every year. And Trevor, did the ISA orientations help you with that as well?
They did, yes. It really creates this environment of inclusivity for everybody who's there abroad at the same campus. I feel like when you're all sitting down at the same space, going through all of the same material, you really find a connection with people because you're all in it together. You come to realize, and so yeah, the orientation sessions and the few events that happen prior to your program will be very beneficial. So I highly encourage that you all attend those.
Mhm. And Kate, what about you? Do you share this feeling?
Yes, I would say once I was there, sorry, there's like some construction outside. Once I was there, like getting to the airport, it was very nice, like meeting at a certain spot with your group and the ISA person that's gonna take us. And yeah, just realizing that everyone's in the same boat, that like none of us know anyone there. So we all are looking for friends and you're all gonna experience these things that could be like once in a lifetime, or at least just the first time you ever experience them. And that's something that'll really just bond you, like Trevor was saying, in a way that you'll remember these people for life.
Yes, absolutely. And Ryan, were you able to like sort of meet new people outside of the ISA excursions as well?
Yeah, I did. I joined, so again, on your university campuses, you're a student there, so you're able to access their services and groups and stuff. So I joined, I'm an English major again. So I joined the Writing Society at the University of Roehampton, which was really fun. It was every week. I met a bunch of people through that. And in fact, I ended up learning a lot from that, so that when I came home to my school in California, I like took a lot of those skills and ideas and I kind of implemented them into our club back at home, which was really fun. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to meet people as long as you kind of like just be proactive about just like looking for things you're interested in.
I love that. Sharing the study abroad love. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move on a little bit more serious onto the academics. Campus life and coursework can look pretty different in London from what you're used to in the States. So, Kate, what would you say your experience at Oriel College what was that experience like? And has it part of the prestigious University of Oxford, were your classes similar to the ones at your home university?
It was pretty different. I really liked how Oriel did it. They really emphasized discussion. So my class was only the four of us on the program and the professor. And he was like, I do not want to be lecturing at you for, a few hours every morning. So it was a lot more discussion based and hands-on, and like your opinion matters and he wants you to ask questions. Whereas at at A&M, our classes are 50 to 100 people. So you just kind of sit and take notes. So that was a pretty big difference, but it was very nice. And they understand that you're not from, England or Oxford, like you're not used to that. So there's some leeway with the adjustment. And then again, mine was only 2 weeks, but we just had 2 projects. So we didn't have big homeworks or tests or anything. But it was interesting not having as strict of like a rubric on the projects. It was kind of like free form, which was very different again from what I'm used to, but it was very cool. And the professor was very understanding.
That's good. I'm pleased that the differences suited you. And Trevor, what about the University of Roehampton? How did this compare to your home university?
So for me, the biggest differences in the university structures that I noticed were mainly the grading scale and the course layouts. So one of the projects I completed while I was abroad, it was a big like book report / presentation kind of thing. It mainly took the majority of the time we were learning while we were there. And so it was kind of our end of course project / exam type thing. And then once I had received my grade for that project, I saw that I had got a 63. And so I was nervous at first because a 63 in the US doesn't meet satisfactory requirements. And so I was a little bit scared about how I did. But then later on, I found out that a 63 in the UK is actually equivalent to an A in the US. And so just a piece of advice to be aware of that in advance so you don't stress yourself out over a little grade differences. Be aware of the grading differences there. And then also the flats will definitely require some adjustment. Once you arrive, you'll see that the toilets and the sinks and even electrical outlets are all different from what you're used to. And so just be prepared to make those adjustments to your daily routine in order to accommodate the existing changes in the culture that you're living in.
That's a very good answer. And with the grading, you can imagine my surprise when I received a 98 at my American university when I was studying abroad. I was like, wow, publish me right now. So we may have some students in the audience who have yet to apply. How far in advance did you apply for your program, and what advice would you give to students that are looking to apply right now? So Ryan, you're up.
So my school, we had to actually go through the university before we could even apply. We had to apply to the school to be able to be granted permission to apply. So I started for fall 2022, which began in September. I started, I think in December of 2021, like really far in advance, my school did that. So definitely take a look at your school and when the application deadlines are, because it could be earlier than you think. So I definitely say stay on top of the deadlines. And in terms of advice for applying, I would just say do your research on a bunch of programs. Just kind of don't limit yourself when you're first researching places to go. That way, when you do pick somewhere, you know that it's like the one you want to do out of all the other ones. That was also something that's really helpful. I was like, this is the program for me, and I kind of knew that. So
yes, we love organization and we love research. Kate, what about you?
I'm like the opposite. I went in June of 2022 and I applied at the end of April. I was looking up in my email. It was like April 21st when I was approved by ISA, which was technically past the deadline, I think, for my university and ISA. But Hannah Hamilton was super helpful. I was on the phone with her like every other day and emailing her. And then my university too, they're more lenient than you think they would be about it. So I wouldn't be, obviously you want to do it sooner rather than later, but if it is later, don't let that deter you. Like I would still just go for it, because the worst they can say is no.
Yeah, that is very good advice. And Hannah Hamilton, yeah, can solve international problems, I feel. So for our audience members who have already applied, there are a few documents and deadlines that you'll have to adhere to. Ryan, tell us what your application process was like, in addition to what you just said.
or the application for my school or the ISA application?
The ISA one.
Oh, okay. I remember there was a few, there was just some there's a lot of questions. You had to do some like sort of short responses about various things. And I don't know, it was a long time ago. It was a year ago. So
Mhm.
my memory's a bit fuzzy, but I remember it definitely wasn't like a super, it didn't just take a day. It definitely took a bit to do, to my knowledge. But yeah, I would just say try to get that done sooner rather than later, just so that you don't have to think about it all the time. Because I think the way I did it also is I just did like one little piece every few days, which made it feel really long and tiring. I don't know. I feel like it would have been better if I just kind of like did it sooner. But yeah.
It's all good. You got it done eventually. It's all good. Okay, so I'm setting the scene. It's 2 weeks before you leave. All of the paperwork is done and you are ready to go. Trevor, what last minute preparations did you make?
So the last minute preparations for me obviously included like learning as much as I could about the country and the culture and lifestyle that I was about to experience. So ways that I did this was I would go on YouTube and watch vlogs about people who were traveling to Europe, specifically London. I would read articles. I mean, there was all kinds of preparation that I was doing to kind of prepare myself for this experience. And so definitely plan what you're going to wear in advance and start removing outfits so that you can pack lightly and fit everything in your suitcase, because return items do count as well. And you'll want to make sure that you buy items over there to bring back. I also made a budget for myself in advance, so I knew how much I was going to be spending on shopping or eating out or even traveling around the city. And then one of the last things I did was I made sure my travel documents were in order, and I filled out an emergency contact form and stuck it with my passport in case anything were to happen in travel. Then there would be an emergency contact with some information on there. So little like doing little things like that can go a long way in helping you feel prepared for your trip, in addition to completing your forms and making sure that your university and ISA know that you're prepared to go. There's several things you can do to like make yourself feel like you are ready to tackle it right before you go as well.
Yes, absolutely. And organizing yourself for the airport, all the documents and things, very important. Kate, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, something I'll say with like the budgeting and stuff, also making sure if you have a credit card or even a debit card, make sure you call your company and tell them you're going abroad and the dates, because if you don't tell them that, they could lock it out, and that's just an added stress you don't want to have to deal with. And then labeling, like getting little luggage tags and putting it, I put mine like one on the outside of my suitcase, one in my backpack, and I think one in my wallet, just with your name and phone number and like address, just so if anything gets lost, people know where to return it to.
Yes, absolutely. Preparing for the worst. It's a solid thing to do. So checking the packing list, as Trevor was saying earlier, is a really great recommendation. It's something we always get questions about. How do I pack? Is the weather in London as crazy as everyone says it is? Yes. Trevor, what's something you wish you had packed that you didn't?
So I'm going to refer back to my answer to one of the other questions about me mentioning that everything in London is different than what we're used to here in the US. So once I got to the UK, I realized that the power outlets were different from what they are here. So I couldn't charge my phone or my computer or any kind of electronic things that I needed for school or that I had brought with me. I had to buy a special adapter that plugged into the outlets in the UK that would then, can change the port to where it would fit my US charger. So that's something that would have been nice to know going in, just to kind of be a little bit more prepared. And then a few more things actually is that Discover card is not widely accepted in the UK. If you're planning to take a card, I definitely suggest a Visa card. Doing this will ensure that you're able to buy what you want and not have to worry about which stores accept which cards you may have. Also be aware of the exchange rates. Like Kate said, generally you're charged for every transaction you make. So using an ATM to get cash each week could save you money rather than being charged a transaction fee for every transaction. And then lastly, you'll be excited to find out that foods in the United Kingdom serve different food, like US chains here, McDonald's, Subway, big chains like that we have here in the US serve different food in the UK. And so it's a fun experience to get to find your US restaurants in another country and then see what they're serving on an international menu. Because then when you get back to the States, you can tell your friends that you had cheesy garlic bites from McDonald's, so that's a pretty fun experience to be able to have as well. So I definitely recommend that.
Yes, that is a great recommendation, cheesy garlic bites. And also Spanish McDonald's is the best, maybe. It's a real reason to go. The weather in your hometown can obviously be a lot different to the place that you're studying abroad in. Ryan, what was something that you bought that you didn't need?
Okay, so let's just say I brought a lot of shorts and t-shirts because back home before I left, it was 114 degrees in Sacramento. We were having a heat wave. So I really was not thinking about London's weather. And I also just, I wish I had looked that up. But even if I did look it up, I would have been like, oh, it's nothing. But yeah, definitely check the weather because that was really problematic because I got there and it was already kind of chilly. I'm like, ooh, chilly. And I was not prepared. I unpacked my suitcase and I was like, I looked at it, I was just sitting there and I was like, oh, this is not great because I had no coat, no jacket, no coat. I had a few hoodies and not much pants. So I had to kind of I had so many shorts and t-shirts. So I had to go out and definitely, it actually worked out because I ended up buying a coat, which I love and I still have. And I got new items, which I also prefer more than what I had before. So it really worked out for me because I did kind of get a new wardrobe, which was fun. But it would have been nice if I had packed better beforehand. But if you don't pack well, don't worry because you can buy things once you get there. There was a lot of things I forgot that I went to get and it was no problem. So, but definitely check the weather before you go.
Yes, I agree with you. And that still happens to me all the time. The weather will just change in the middle of the day. And I'm like, oh, an excuse to buy a new outfit. What a shame. So this one is for everyone. Knowing what you know now, having studied abroad, what advice would you give to your former self before going abroad? So Kate, let's start with you.
I think I would just tell myself to kind of calm down a little bit. It is a foreign country and it's a different culture, but it's also really not as drastically different compared to another country would be from the US. So just to not be so overwhelmed with the thought of oh, everything's going to be so different. And then also just doing a little more research about transportation. I didn't really look up how the bus system or the tube or any of that worked. And I had never in Texas, we don't have that. It's not like New York City. So I just had no experience with that really. So I wish I would have looked a little more into that.
What advice would you give to your former self, Ryan?
So easier said than done, but I would have just said, don't worry so much because to be honest, the worrying was so much worse than it just happening. It was so much more stressful before than anything I did the whole time, to be honest. So, yeah, I think I'm definitely kind of a worst case scenario planner. I try to plan for what if this, what if that. It never came to pass. So I was just kind of going through over and over these things for nothing, to be honest. So I probably would have just said, don't worry so much. And I wish I kind of had just trusted more that it'll all be okay. It'll all work out. It always does. Especially there's a lot of resources on the program. There's people there. There's people from ISA advisors. You'll have people there that are there to support you. So even again, you're not just alone by yourself there. Yeah, and sometimes something did come up, I had a doctor's appointment or I needed to get this done or whatever, and I just emailed the program people on site and they gave me the right resources. They even offered to come with me to my doctor's appointment. It was so nice. So Yeah, there's not as much to worry about as you might think. And if things do come up, you have people that can help you resolve those issues.
Yes, absolutely. I'm pleased that you had a positive experience with us. Obviously, we like to try and give everyone as much support as we can. Some people want that and some people don't. So I'm glad that that was your takeaway from everything. And lastly, Trevor, what advice are you giving to your younger self?
So I don't really have much more advice to add other than what has been covered. I think Kate and Ryan both covered the biggest parts of what most of us tend to worry about when we're studying abroad or even traveling out of the country. I'll say that going abroad with ISA was really nice because, like Ryan mentioned, there's a lot of support behind everything that you're doing, from, Hannah all the way to Joseph and Marina. Once you get there, I mean, they are there to help you through the whole process. And that's, instead of focusing more on like what could go wrong, what if this happens, what if this happens, focus more on, I have these resources available. I know that Hannah's here to help me. I'll have ISA staff in London when I get there. Just try to focus more on the support and guidance that you do have rather than what could go wrong and what if this happens, because trust me, you're going to worry a lot more for nothing. There, you'll realize that you worry a lot more than necessary. So trust those resources and use them when you need them.
Absolutely. Yes. Everything works out in the end. I'm pleased that you guys share that with me. So last but not least, students always talk about the life-changing experience of studying abroad, and I definitely talk about mine all the time. So what was that moment for you that you will never forget? Kate, let's start with you.
Mine's kind of small and it seems dumb, but I have like the worst sense of direction. Like I use a map to get 15 minutes away from my house. I just don't, direction's just not for me. And so me and one of my friends, or one of the guys on the study abroad, we were in London on Saturday and we decided we wanted to go to Abbey Road. So we were like, yeah, no, we figured out the bus, whatever. It was the wrong bus. So we went the opposite direction and we ended up just walking like an hour to get there. And so while we were there, I was in the shop, like just on my phone, trying to figure out the buses and the tubes and the connection and everything. And I figured it out and we found like the right way to get back to the restaurant we were going to meet everyone else at in central London. And that was just like, it was like an empowering moment for me of like, okay, like I'm okay to be on my own, like I can be independent and, kind of provide for myself. So that was just a cool, like confidence builder moment for me.
Absolutely. I love that for you. Central London can be one of the most difficult places to navigate anyway, especially when you put in that you get minimal phone signal in some of the places because of how tall the buildings are. So I am very pleased for you about that. Trevor, what was your life-changing moment?
So my life-changing moment happened during my descent into London Heathrow at the start of my program. Towards the end of my flight, I started feeling really excited and curious, but I was really scared. And so it was my first time out of the US, like I had mentioned, and I was seeing an entirely unfamiliar landscape 4,000 miles from home. So just kind of picture what that feels like. The feeling of flying into a new country is very special. And so I got to, get that experience. And then once, we landed and I got to the airport, it was in that moment that I realized I truly was on my own and had to figure things out for myself. It was like a sense of, okay, this is it. Like Kate mentioned, like you have to figure it out now. So that was probably the biggest life-changing moment for me. And it instilled a sense of like true independence as well, that I know I'll be able to use, like not only in those experiences, but in my professional life as well. So.
Absolutely. Yes, it's very good to talk about study abroad in every job interview. I do, definitely do. And lastly, Ryan, what was your life-changing moment in London?
So while I was in London, I was really into walking. Like I would just by myself, and whenever I didn't have class, I would just go out, just like bump around the tube all day. Had no idea where I was going. I just kind of like pop up random places and like, this is so cool. But I think that one of my favorite moments, like on one of my walks, it was kind of by the London Eye, and there was street performer, playing music, kind of like with acoustic guitar. So I was kind of like sitting there, and as I was walking, if you turn the corner, you walk towards like the Big Ben across the bridge. So I just like walked past London Eye. I was hearing this music, and it was at sunset. So like the sky was like purple and orange, and like the like water was like glowing almost. It was like reflective, and it was great because I was seeing like the Big Ben, like it was like kind of like lit up almost. It was so pretty. And there was like the black cab, like there's a bunch of cabs like driving like right by the Big Ben. And I was like, am I in a movie right now? Like, is this a movie set? Because this is like too perfect to be real. So I think that was just a great walk. It was a great time. Like, I don't know. That's just like really stuck out in my mind.
I was about to say, were you in a movie? Wow, that sounds amazing. Something that gets me about a sunset every single time. And also, I see Big Ben and London Eye, obviously, regularly. But I'm still just like, oh, so sweet. I love it so much. Lovely. I think that is the end of all of the questions I'm going to interrogate you guys with. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for answering everything. Thank you so much, everyone.